everyone, namaste. Welcome again. So I'm in a state of bliss. Can you see? That's how I am most of the time. And obviously this session.
Can I say to you, when you said smile earlier on, I felt a release here.
Me too.
You did?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
As soon as you said, smile, the first initial attempt to therapy, I just forced the smile, and then I feel what's going on. So it opens something.
Yeah. So that's how this whole principle is about how you feel, right? So if you improve how you feel, then it's automatically, gradually, over a period of time, starts bringing that magic in life. But the problem is that feeling good is not that easy. When you're faced with circumstances, situation, people, all kinds of things around you, how do you feel good? And even forget about magic. Even if, let's say, you don't believe in magic, the way I look at it is that if you can just feel good, if, let's say, you are poor and you're not going to ever be rich, let's say, but then there are two kinds of poor people. Some people who are poor but still happy because they have other things to look forward to, or there are some poor people who are sad and in pain. So if, let's say, you have to be poor, there is nothing you can do to earn money, then would you rather be happy or sad? That's the choice that you have. But on the other hand, from my own personal experiences and all the people I've observed in my life, I've noticed that when people are happy, when they improve their set point, even the magic starts happening in their lives. Now, we can't move the camera towards Andrew, but I was just talking to Andrew and I realized that again, his being here is again evidence of law of attraction, because there were questions in his mind about some of the important questions he was looking for answers for. And this session, coincidentally, we are going to cover exactly the same topics that he has been trying to talk about or wanted to know.
Yeah,
and that's how law of attraction works. Means how would he know that we were going to talk about these things in this topic? Nobody knows. Other than me, nobody in this gathering knew that we were going to talk about these topics. And that's how it works. So when you think of those things and when you are happy and comfortable with those things, then universe would bring those circumstances, people, situations, events, coincidences to you to make it happen. That's what the whole philosophy is. Last couple of sessions we have talked, last few sessions we have talked about how to make peace within your circumstances, how to make peace within you, who you are. And next couple of sessions we are going to talk about how to be at peace with others around you. And I noticed that there are a couple of big areas which cause the biggest conflict and biggest discomfort. One of them is religion. That's obviously the biggest, because you can imagine that most people in the world, the biggest set of killings in the world have happened because of religion. And that's again, even today, in everyday life, when you go out, talk to people, different religions, different gods, different set of rules, that creates a lot of discomfort. It's quite common to see that, when people who are dressed in a particular, according to a particular religion, which is not usual for a particular part of the world. And then in a public transport, people from other dress code, from different religion enter that public transport. A lot of people feel discomfort. You can see that. You can look at their faces. And it happens everywhere. And same way, so religion is one, and the rules related to religion are the biggest source of conflict and discomfort, not just for you to feel comfortable with other people, but also for you to feel comfortable with yourself. So understanding of the religion is important. If you have to make peace with others or you, how the religion works, how do you even look at the religion, how do you see whether or not that religion, what significance the religion has within life. And so today, because this is a big topic, please pardon me that we would just cover this topic today. The second biggest area of conflict is the marital relations, or non-marital relations. Again, a lot of families break down because of certain behaviors or certain practices which are considered to be big factors, enough to be able to break otherwise a happy marriage. Again, a lot of people, they find that again as an area of biggest discomfort. So how do you deal with those situations? And then there are a couple of others. Rest of them are like much smaller areas which a lot of people would find much easier to deal with. So in the third session we would cover the remaining areas. So today is about religion. It's not being at peace with religion, the understanding of religion is not just important for making peace with others, but also with yourself. Because quite often the religions would dictate rules to us. And quite often we may want things which are different from those rules because we are humans. Our desires, our needs are quite different from most of the time what religions tell us to do. Like for instance in Bhagavad Gita, we talk about letting go of all desires, become sort of sages, like not even want anything. But there's a big conflict there because Krishna himself had 16,000 wives. He was a very rich king and who basically enjoyed all the pleasures of life.
Did you say last week about Krishna? You said something about Krishna last week.
I don't remember. So basically he enjoyed all the physical pleasures, the luxury of being a very rich, very powerful king. And then for him to turn around and tell people that if you want to achieve me, you have to let go of all the desires. So that's not exactly what is written in Gita, what people believe. And that's one of the realizations I had, so which again I'm writing a book on it. But the thing is, that's not what Krishna said, because there is no way he could have followed a different life path and tell people to follow a different life path in order to achieve him. So a lot of these things, whatever is being written in religion, it's just people just keep changing those things. They're just people's interpretations, reinterpretations and convenience, that once a person becomes a religious leader, they choose to decide what rules are followed by the people who follow that religion.
And we don't know the intentions.
Yeah, and those rules, if you look at
Sometimes
history,
you never find out.
exactly, if you look at those rules throughout the history of that religion, you will see that those rules have kept changing depending on who is in power within that religion. So now since that is one of the biggest sources of conflict, those religions and the rules and different gods. Let's look at them in a little bit more detail. See, how do people even become religious? How do you even, why are, let's say, I'm assuming that most people here are Christians.
No.
What religion is that? No, okay. So most people, they follow the religion that they're born in. Right? How do people become Christians or Hindus? Why am I a Hindu? Let's say why don't we Christians? I mean, did you have a choice to be taking birth into a particular family? You were just born in a family and that's it. So your family was Christian, my family was Hindu. Growing up, that's what I was taught, that you go to temple, you pray to Krishna, and that's the way to achieve nirvana. And you guys were taught that you went through baptism and then you were taken to church by your families, and that's how you became Christian.
Yeah. No much choice.
Nobody had a choice.
No choice initially.
Well, that's how you begin, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But then, how many people in the world reach a stage in their lives where they even want to question anything? Let's say if you live in West, let's say UK, America, most of the European countries, most of the people are Christians. So if you are born in a Christian family, what reason do you have to even question?
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Or somebody who's born in, let's say, Afghanistan. What reason would he have to convert to Christianity from Islam?
Just saying, things doesn't add up. Something is wrong. And then you start questioning those doctrines and you see
But
it's a bull,
if everyone around you is following the same doctrine, and if it's a country where most of the countries have majority of one particular religion, and if you belong to a majority religion, it's not going to be a very comfortable life for you if you try to convert to one of the minority religions.
Yeah, but that person is just looking. It doesn't mean, like, we're all looking. So that person chose Christianity because it doesn't mean it's right. It was just because.
And very few people do that, right? Rarely, because most people cannot even figure out enough. Means how do they even know? Like, it's not like a God comes to them, a Muslim God comes to a Christian person and saying that Christian God is bad, so you convert to Islam and become my follower. Is that what happens? How do people become Christians or Muslims or continue in that religion? They are born in that religion, and as they grow, because of whatever they have seen, those habits become set in stone, and they have no really reason for most parts to question it, so they just continue.
It was programmed.
They just become programmed. Most people do not have enough going on in their mind to question anything they've been taught. So they just, whatever upbringing they've been given, they just follow that. That's it. Very rarely you would see people try to question very strong beliefs they've been taught.
Do you know if there are any sort of statistics on
Yes, we are going to come to
percentages
that.
that change? It's quite interesting, or that just change their views
We
completely.
are going to come to all of that.
Thanks.
So we have some of the numbers here as well. So basically, how do you even know God? Which God is the right God? Muslim God, Christian God, Hindu gods. Hindus have at least, we are spoiled because we have a choice of gods. We have millions of gods, and even I could pray to Jesus and I can still be Hindu because we are given a choice. Or I could, in India, a lot of people they believe. Let's say in South India you go, there was a big actress who came into very seductive roles, and very famous actress called Khushbu, and they have a temple for her, and people pray to her just like she is a goddess.
Why not?
And,
But why,
She's
why,
a-
why not
At
compared
least she
to
is pretty, right?
yeah, exactly. And now there is this actor called Rajnikant. Again, they pray to him like he's God. Now it's very common. Like there are lots of gods in India. Even new gods keep coming up. Recently, like many years ago, Osho Rajneesh. There was a new god that took shape, and a lot of his believers, the new religion started on his name. They think he's God. So India, we are spoiled for choice. Nobody tells us, dictates us. We are free to choose our own God, or we are free to choose that we don't want any God, or I want my mother or my father to be my God, my teacher to be my God, or I want some particular actor or actress to be my God. So that way, at least we are spoiled for choice, And I could even consider Jesus or Muhammad to be my God, and I could still stay Hindu. I don't have to convert to follow a different God. But most of the other religions are not like that. If you're a Muslim, you try to follow Jesus.
So can you kind of give us a brief summary of what Hinduism is for you?
Hinduism, it basically is based on like a couple of principles. Like it's about, and anyways, this discussion is not about Hinduism.
No, but I want to understand. Just in a nutshell.
It's about basically some principles within your life that you are free to do whatever you want. You're free to choose whatever you do. You're free to pray to any god that you want. But main things are that first of all, that fact that you're born a Hindu, so it automatically makes you a Hindu. And second thing is that you have certain beliefs in terms of not harming others and respecting others, and beliefs against violence and those kind of things. So there are these set of certain rules, and then obviously there are lots of rituals that go along with it. But again, you have a choice whether you believe in rituals or not, or which rituals you believe in. So you get a choice, but as long as you believe that you are a Hindu, and you follow certain basic principles about how you interact with others, not harming them, then you are a Hindu. So that's what the core belief is. Rest all is your choice.
Yeah, right, I understand that. Cool.
So, but anyways, this is not this discussion. It's about religion in general, because I myself don't follow Hinduism as much as a lot of other people do. So, so I may not be the right person to try to say anything about that religion.
No.
So it's not God that comes tells anyone that these are the right rules. Those rules people make them. People in power make them. People who are the leaders of that religion who come into power, like whichever person wins the election of Pope starts to change the rules for Christianity. So if those rules were absolute rules, which were real rules, which were set by God, why do they need to change them? Wouldn't they stay constant?
It's just a tool,
So it's just a political tool.
Power, or money, whatever it is.
Yeah. So
Just a tool.
yeah, so most people, it's the environment, it's the family around them, it's the upbringing. So you become habitual to those thoughts, and then because especially if you're living in the country where majority of the people are like you, there is no reason to question that, and you just follow that, because it takes very, very difficult choices. If you live in Afghanistan and try to leave Islam and become a Christian, people might kill you.
Yeah.
So it's not easy for people to change. So it's not those people's faults that they have. Let's say if a Christian person says that the Islam God is wrong, Islamic rules are wrong, But it's not those people's fault that they were born in that family or in particular country. Did they have a choice? So if Christians believe that God created all human beings and that those people who follow that God are wrong, so they would go to hell for that. So does that mean that God has sent first, He makes those people born without their choice into a family and a country, a wrong family and the country, they have no choice, and then because He sent them to that family, He sends them to hell for that? Is that the kind of God we are talking about? If those people are wrong, if those paths are wrong, if those rules are wrong, why doesn't God stop sending people into those children to those families and only send the children into right families so that He doesn't have to send them to hell for no mistake of those people? Those people didn't commit a
You
crime.
need to go to hell to be controlled.
So, so basically, why would God deliberately first make children being born into some families, force some people to be born in some families, where they have no choice in except believe in the wrong God, and then send them to hell for that? It's like God is punishing all those people for His own mistake. Is that what God is?
No. You know, if you see it objectively, it's easy to realize that there's something wrong with those people, especially with those leaders. And you see the religion around the world. You can tell right away there is sickness within this mindset that really it makes the whole world goes crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a few more questions we can follow with that. Yeah.
So now if we explore this same topic further, let's say a lot of people say that our God is right because a lot of other people believe so. So let's say if you live in UK, most people are Protestants. America, most people are Protestants. Ireland, a lot of the European countries, most people are Catholics. Islamic countries. In India, there is a Hindu majority. Now, so if you talk to, let's say, somebody in a particular country, because the majority people are Protestants here, Protestants think theirs is the right decision because that's the majority. That's one of the logic that a lot of people give. Or if you go to an Islamic country, a lot of people, they follow Islam because they think that's the majority. Most people believe that. But when you look at it, there is a total population of 7 billion on this planet. There are 2.1 billion Christians. So let's say 2 billion Christians. So let's say the argument that 2 billion people that believe that a Christian God is the right God or Jesus is the way to salvation. If those 2 billion people believe that, there are other 5 billion people on this planet who say that's wrong.
Or a variation of the same theme.
So majority of the people say that that's not the right way to salvation. Jesus is not. They say either Muhammad or Krishna or somebody else, or not following any God. They're atheists. Or Buddha.
Don't you think that religion instills fear? That's why people,
Exactly. So that's why most of the time.
they might believe in other things, but if they're raised in a Catholic family, they'll continue it in their children because it'll be expected. But
Yeah.
religion or God, there is an aspect of it that is, if I don't do right, I'm going to go to hell. It's a fear aspect.
Exactly. So if you go to church, I've attended a few sermons in church. Half the time they're just talking about, all sorts of devil and all sorts of issues or problems and fears, right? I'm a Hindu, so I grew up with a lot of priests, Hindu priests. And they mainly talk about that, that you have this Jupiter's situation and this Saturn's condition, so which will cause all sorts of issues and problems in your life. And in order to basically overcome those bad things that are going to happen to your life, pay us this much money, we'll do these rituals and cleanse all this, that, so that your life would get better. So they never talk about pleasing the God. It's very rare because people don't pay them enough money to these priests to do those rituals to please God. But if they say that you have a Saturn's condition which is going to make your life hell for the next 7 years, then people are willing to spend a lot of money to get big rituals done. And they make a lot of money that way. So it's mainly fear-based religion that I've noticed that is being followed.
It's just preventing people from thinking freely.
Yeah. So for every religion, let's say if Muslims are very strong, sometimes they say that their religion is absolutely correct. 1.5 billion people in the world who are Muslims. And then that is one religion. Most of the lot of people around the world, they don't believe in. You know, they just point fingers at that religion. So Hindus,
It's
like
to do with the culture as well, isn't it?
yeah. So a lot of times it's culture. Like
Yeah.
Hinduism, because it's the most oldest religion that has survived through the ages. So even though it has like less number of followers, but it's the third biggest religion. So 1 billion people. So even Hinduism, like, you know, most people think that's some hocus pocus. It's like some pagan stuff. Like, you know, if you talk to a Christian, because that's what it was like originally. Like, you know, it has all these pagan type rituals. You know, so for every person who follows a particular religion, follows a particular set of rules, there are more people who think those rules are wrong or their rules are better. So if you go by rule of majority, then all the religions have to be wrong. There cannot be any other way. Because no God would let all this majority of the people go to hell for no fault of theirs, when that God is the one making those people being born in those families.
There must be something else, basically.
There must be
I'm
something
gonna
else.
say about God and some moral stuff, you know, what is appropriate, what's it's, you know, as a reason to punish. We're gonna be lost like in the woods. So there must be something else. Put it
Yeah.
this way.
And that's what, like,
Don't
you
you
know,
think sometimes that people need a reason, and so they do it in the name of religion?
yeah. And we would talk about it once we have looked at some of these aspects. We would also talk about why those religions work. So this is something I've seen through my meditation. And why is it that when there are Christians, they go to church, they claim that, you know, they have been able to connect with God, while Hindus also say that same thing. You see a lot of Muslim people say the same thing, Buddhists say the same thing. Atheists also are able to say the same thing, you know, in different ways. So why is it that all these religions, even though they all have these rules?
Can I say something here? I mean, I've started to go to church in the last, say, 3-4 years, and I've never been able to call myself a Christian. I still can't do it because I don't basically feel that I am. What I started to go for was because my life felt very out of balance, and I wanted to go to a place where I could contemplate my life and take some space to just consider things. And I've always felt that the Bible, even though some of the stories are not strictly true, is quite a good guidebook to keep you on a pretty good path throughout your life. Although I kind of look at all sorts of other things as well. I've always been kind of very open and very interested in what other people's beliefs are. But for me, I would never say I'm a Christian, and I can't say that I've ever truly understood what God is, other than the core of my being, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I just wondered how many other people.
I think that's a
Engage.
dilemma. A lot of people have that dilemma, but most people don't think of that way. They just follow whatever they've been
Yeah.
taught, right? Very few people, they have that dilemma. Then they go out looking. They would find gatherings like this, they would talk to different people, and then eventually at some point, they would have to either, you know, accept whatever they have or just follow one particular path. It doesn't matter which path you follow, because if you talk to those Christians, that path works for them. If you talk to those Muslims, that path works for them. If you talk to a lot of these Hindus, that path works for them. You know, people who pray to Khushbu or Rajnikant, those actors, it works for them.
But it doesn't work for me if they start distorting the rules that negate other people or negate me.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me.
So we'll cover
I
that.
don't understand that, because isn't there only one source? And then if you, that doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
that's what we'll talk about that. How that works for, how is it that all these different paths work for those different people? Okay, so we will talk about that. So basically what we are talking about here is that, you know, if you really look at all these things like religion, we are talking about like, you know, what all the things that have happened. You know, you talk about holy wars, you talk about Alexandria, the fall of Alexandria, all this great civilization. You know, just Christians went out on a rampage, killed everyone, burnt all the library books, all the science and research was lost. And you know, then you talk about you know, all this jihad and terrorism. Like, you know, we call them terrorists, but they call themselves jihadis. They are fighting for their God. You know, and then all these wars for Jerusalem, all sorts of bloodshed that has happened. Hitler tried to kill people for belonging to a particular religion. He nearly killed a lot of them, and there are religious riots in a lot of countries in Asia and Africa. In India, I have witnessed religious riots myself, and I've been caught a few times in the middle of them while walking out or about on the street. And so it's basically, when you look at the religion, the way religion works, more often you would see more people being killed in the name of religion than people who achieve salvation. If you do a poll and say that, okay, how many people actually achieved salvation from their particular religion, you would not get that many votes. But if you count how many people have been killed, let's say how many people are being killed in drone attacks right now, how many people are being killed in religious riots, how many people Hitler killed, or all these holy wars killed, you would find that that number is far greater, far greater. So all of these things, because they have different rules and different gods. So people say that whatever rules is Muslims follow because they can have 4 wives, that's bad, but because we are monogamous. So that's the right rule, that's the right approach. So it's all basically because of all these different gods and different rules. But again, the example we talked about last week, 7 deadly sins, right? Like Christians, initially that list included spilling others' blood or taking others' things in that list. But when church started sending armies, crusades, to kill others and take their things, then they changed those rules. They got rid of them. And then does it mean that we are free to kill others now? Because it's not, if I'm a Christian, is it okay for me to kill others? Then why do they have these laws to, put people in jail?
It's madness.
Why do they?
They're insane, basically. To be able, to justify somehow, to find the. I just wonder, what is the reasoning in the people's head, to go kill and then talk about love and God? It's you have to be insane.
You have to be a
really.
megalomaniac.
And then you
Just
have-
wants to keep control.
Yes.
It's
correct.
about money, isn't it?
Money, politics, power. So, but having looked at all of that, if we realize how this religion works and what it has achieved in mankind,
It's not hard to.
you would realize that it's nothing wrong with the people who follow those different rules or different religions. You would find it much easier to be at peace with them. Because religion is not the right thing to do, but it's not the wrong thing to do either, because it works for them. A different set of rules would work for you, different set of rules works for those people. So different rules work for every different person. That's why religion works. Because in order to, if you look at how the law of attraction works and how Kundalini works, it's about, there is what I saw through my meditations, that the universe is oval shaped. Okay, very big. It was originally called Brahman in Sanskrit, which means, Brahma means very, very large, unimaginably large, and And means egg or oval shaped object. So it's a very, very large, unimaginably large oval shaped object. But everyone knows it's expanding. Scientists agree it's expanding, which means there is an end to it. It's not infinite. It has a particular size. That size is getting bigger. But there is an end to it. Also, we know that the energy can never be created. It always stays exactly as, it can only change form. It cannot be created or destroyed. Which means, and plus we know that all the matter, physical things, are formed from energy. Energy gets converted into matter, matter can get converted into energy. Which means when the universe expands, it is sucking out energy sitting somewhere. And that energy is becoming material, which forms the planets, stars, people, creatures, whatever, we. Now, so which means there must be infinite field of energies sitting outside the universe. And as the universe expands, it consumes that energy, converts it into matter with which planets, stars, galaxies are formed. And the universe keeps expanding. So what I have seen is that all-encompassing thing, that all of that energy, universe, everything put together is God. That's what I saw it as. But the thing is, God has to have consciousness. Because if it's not conscious, it's not a living or breathing creature. It's not something that exists. Because for instance, if this body did not have consciousness, then we would not be alive, we would not exist. We would be as good as like just soil. So it's our thoughts, it's our consciousness which makes us who we are. Similarly, God has to have that consciousness, but God does not have a body because it's that big energy field, which means whatever thoughts, and consciousness is made of thoughts. So whatever thoughts that exist in God, they must be lying around within that energy field by itself. There is no other way. So I saw beyond that energy field, towards the other edge of that, beyond the edge of the universe, after a gap, I saw bubbles. Because I can't interpret what God is, right? I can only interpret based on whatever conscious things I know around me. So my interpretation was that there were all these bubbles, which are the thoughts, which are the consciousness of God. And our thoughts add to that. Which means all the thinking creatures, all the conscious creatures, their thoughts together, their energy, the energy of all the universe together, everything that exists together is God. Which means we are part of that God, and God is within us. Our thoughts add to God's thoughts, and our thoughts are part of that God's thoughts. Everyone's thoughts combined together, everyone's energy to combine together, all the energy combined together is God's thoughts and God's energy. And that whole thing is God. That's what I saw.
Yeah, I get that.
Now, why does it work? Why do people who believe in Jesus or Muhammad or Krishna or Khushbu or Rajnikant, why does it work for them?
How do we know it doesn't work? How do we know? How we can say that it doesn't work?
No, it does work.
Who is the one who has to judge this?
No, a lot of people claim that it works, right?
Yeah, people have opinions.
So
yeah.
we are saying that whoever it claims that it works for them, when they go to church, they
They're giving
achieve
it energy, you're giving it their time,
Yes.
their energy.
focus, their thoughts.
Yeah.
So basically, to make the thoughts manifest into physical things, basically you need to those thoughts with lying at the edge of that space and time continuum. They pass through this godly energy force, and they manifest as physical objects in the universe. So that's how changes happen within the universe, and that's how universe expands, right? So thoughts become those manifestations, physical manifestations. Energy by itself doesn't change by itself because some trigger has to come from it somewhere. That trigger is that consciousness, those thoughts. Similarly, our thoughts become physical manifestations in our own lives. That's what this whole principle is all about, right? So we have the same sort of power that God has at a smaller scale for our own universe. God created His own big universe. We have our own small little universe around us, which is our life. So we do the same thing within our life, create our own reality, our own life around us, the way God created the whole universe,
Yeah.
using our thoughts. We think good thoughts, good things manifest in our lives. We think bad thoughts, bad things manifest. Common sense, everyone knows that. We have always believed that, known that. So basically, how do those thoughts manifest? So we have that energy, we have those thoughts, that energy flows through within those thoughts and manifests into physical objects. Now when people go to church, what are they doing? And in order to bring power to those thoughts, we have to have emotions attached to it. Right? So if people go to church, they listen to a particular sermon, makes them feel good, gives them belief, the faith. That is important. If you believe, you have that faith that these thoughts are going to manifest, they are going to manifest. If you have confidence, right? And if you feel good about it, they are going to get you good results. So when you go to church, you pray, listen to the sermon, you listen to whatever is being said, you feel good about it. If you believe it, you have faith in Jesus. What happens? You have achieved all the steps that are required for that manifestation. In Hindu culture, you call the priests, they do all these chants, the mantras and rituals. And then again, those mantras and rituals have the same effect because people strongly believe that having this ritual done, this mantra done, is going to achieve certain results. And when you have that and you feel good, because those mantras are quite they have that vibration all these different vibrations that improves your energy and improves your vibration, makes you feel better. And then suddenly, you're in that happy feeling place, you're feeling good, you have faith, you know that it's going to work. And voila, it works.
Yeah.
Same thing happens to any religion. So for all that matters, you could choose your own God. You could have a living, breathing person living next to you that gives you good feelings. If thinking about that person makes you feel God, assume that person is your angel, that person is your God, whatever you want to call that. Whenever you feel sad, think of that person, pray to that person, make you into a good feeling place, have belief that if you're in a good feeling place, it will work. That God that you have chosen would work exactly in the same manner as Jesus, Muhammad, or Krishna. You know, because that's why we Hindus are given a choice of God. We can believe any God. We can choose, make up a new God and start believing.
Yeah, it's just a name,
It's just a name.
isn't it?
It's just a symbol. The main thing is that either through rituals or any other means. Again, rituals is a choice. You have millions of rituals in Hinduism. You choose whichever rituals you want to believe in. Or you create your own rituals. That's how a lot of these things like pagan religion, witchcraft and all those things originated. All of these things, like witchcraft, how does it work? People have some random rituals and anyone can make new rituals. If you see like all these different witches or wizards, they keep coming up newer and newer rituals. Energy healers, you know, all these things. Again, every single thing works exactly on the same principles. You know, you buy crystals, you do all sorts of different things, buy all sorts of tools. Everything works exactly the same principle.
You are the reason.
You are the reason.
You
So
are
it's
the-
your
you
energy.
choose your tool, you play,
Yeah.
but you are the reason, yeah.
So you harness your own energy, your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own connection to God, because your soul is a tiny part of that big thing called God. It's inside it, it makes God, it is part of the God, it's the building block of that God. So you, and because you are connected to that God, other people are also connected. So think about it. If you are connected and if you change your vibration, you are attracting, changing, impacting other people's vibrations also, because they are connected to the same thing. You have that connection from top of your head through that source. You are connected to every single creature on this planet. And that's the reason.
We're coming back to that, aren't we? I think that realisation. I think what priests have done in different religions for years is kind of have stopped people from believing in their own energies and asked that they go to them and that you can only achieve something through them, which isn't true.
Yeah, because otherwise how would they make money?
Absolutely. And
You know,
get the
they-
you know,
power.
some of these successful Hindu
Exactly.
priests, how much money they make, you would not believe.
Mm.
You know, some of them are like, they make hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds or even billions. They wield so much power. You know? And that's the way it works.
Look at the Vatican. It's actually frightening going into it. It's like, it's scary because it's just so opulent that you just think, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And all these people starving, this is
So-
just wrong.
Having said all of that, this discussion is not about saying that religion is wrong or the rules are wrong.
No, no.
It works for whoever it works for.
Mm.
Whoever goes to church and they say that church works for them, it's good. It's good for them. It works for them. Whoever goes to a mosque says it works for them, it's good. It works for them. Whoever says, you know, they want to pray to Krishna, works for them, great. Both are great. People who are atheists, works for them. Right? That's it. It works for them.
It has a
What
place,
does
yeah.
work for you? How do you care what works for them, what doesn't work for them?
Mhm.
You are the center of your own universe. What works for you? How do you even care what works for others?
No, I don't agree, because other people believe in nothing, they're feeding it and they're making it grow.
But you don't have to be a part of that.
Yeah, but then we live in a world that it is a part of.
But
It's hard not to be.
it is hard not to be.
Sometimes it's really
Absolutely, it's hard. But I just think you can only be the judge of what you do in your life.
Exactly.
Yes.
And what you do in your life can have a positive effect on somebody else or a negative one. I try, and I know it doesn't always work, but I try to be positive, and I try to help people when they need it and listen, and you know. But you can only be the judge of what you do. How you spend your money, that's your business. That's how you judge. You judge what you're doing. You can't, you know, as much as we all do it.
Yeah.
I try to just keep reminding myself it's actually none of my business how you spend your wages or.
But you see, it's a strange thing because most people would say that their intentions are positive or optimistic or they have good intentions, right? But when you see in general what the word it counts to, it shows you there is something else that has, you know, the definite power over, you know, the effect of people's, you know, works or achievements, stuff like that. So there is something else that makes things happen the way they are. Because we might say, okay, I want this in my life, why not? But you haven't.
Yeah.
But I think you need to be aware also of your unconscious, because you may say, like on the surface, I would like this, I would like this, I would like this, and the first few sessions, couple of sessions we've been doing it, is Pankaj is asking us to be aware of things, and with those mantras he was asking us to say, the affirmations, I became more aware of actually what was underneath that, and it wasn't
Yeah.
all positive and stuff. So I caught
That's why
myself
I'm here.
I caught myself thinking,
Exactly.
oh wow, I actually think that, and it was probably so strong, I wasn't even aware of it, it was just like ingrained, inbuilt. This is how I really feel about myself. There's a lot of fear-based stuff here, even though I'm asking for this stuff, this stuff exists.
Exactly.
So becoming aware of those things, I think, for me, gave it less power to help me trying to change
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff.
A lack of awareness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because we let me first answer Andrula's thing. Like you know you said that you don't buy into that or something, right?
Well, what I said is allowing people to have certain beliefs. They're feeding it, and they're making it grow, and they're feeding the fear, and they're just making that.
But how do you care? Because if you
I
believe,
care because it's the world I'm living in, and it's happening all around.
if you believe in law of attraction, then none of those negative experiences would come into your life unless you want them, unless you invite them through your thoughts.
But there's a child starving in Africa now. Okay, we can like shut off to it as much as we want, but that child is hungry right now.
But would, by your thinking about it, is that child going to get food?
Maybe because if I thought about it long and hard enough, maybe then I might do something about it.
So you make a decision about your life that is driven by their circumstance. You see, I'm interested in this because I worked with vulnerable children that had traumas or a poor start in life. And there's a certain point where I had to remain objective to their situation. I think that was when I first realised that people don't live the same life as I do, or they don't live in the same way as I do. Because at the end of the day, I had a job to do to nurture those children back to a better state of emotional health. But it wasn't my job to become their parent, and it wasn't my job to judge the way that they are brought up or the circumstances they live in. It was my job was to nurture them back to a better emotional place, and so I could do that. I could do that in everything that I did, all the experiences that I provided for them. The most important thing for me was to give them a sense of trust. If I said I was going to do something, then I would always follow up and do it. If I said I would be in the classroom for them at 1 o'clock, I would be there at 1 o'clock, so that they could learn to rely on somebody.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and I think that, yeah, I was very troubled to start off with in my job, but that didn't help the job that I was doing. Only how I conducted myself and what I put in place and what I sought to get from my group.
Yeah. This is kind of a very long discussion which merits a topic by itself. So, you know, we would cover that in one other session. So if you can park this for the time being,
Okay.
because this is an important thing, you know, which, like I said, would be covered in the third session. But today is mainly focused about religion and rules. You know, because, like I said, that is one of the biggest discomfort areas.
I think Mother Teresa actually summed it up beautifully in terms of focus. And she said, don't ever ask me to an anti-war demonstration, but if you have a pro-peace one, I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about where you put your focus.
Exactly. So if you put focus on, let's say, war, or put focus on children starving, that's what you're going to get more of.
Yes.
If you put focus on feeding them, being able to be peaceful, then you would get peace, or you would get children being fed. So where you put focus is what you get. So basically, but we'll get there. We'll talk about each of these topics, release each of those resistance. But the thing is, unless we become aware of that resistance within us, unless we start slowly putting our thoughts in the right direction so that we can start releasing that resistance, we would not achieve that state of bliss. If we don't achieve that state of bliss, it's very unlikely for us to be able to manifest some big positive things in our life. If we can't become big, have big positive things in our own life, how can we help others? If we manifest a lot of big positive things in our life, we become super rich, we could maybe start a big charity which can feed all the children in the world. Now, I would rather put that my focus there than worry about those children starving right now. That's just a different way of looking. So you're still thinking about them, but you're thinking in a different way. That right now, if I, like we do donation every month, right? We have different charities from our account every month. Money keeps going, right? We sponsor these orphan children and all those things. So, like negligible drop in the big ocean. We know that it doesn't make much impact, but we do something, whatever we can. We can't do more than that, right? But on the other hand, if I were to change my life so much, have such positive focus, I could start a big charity and donate a few billion pounds to it. That would make a much bigger difference. But for me to reach that stage, I have to focus on myself first. Get me to that stage first.
Exactly. Get to the root of the problem actually. Because we just, if we're gonna lament about, of course this is a problem, I'm not saying it's not. It's a huge problem, people suffering, right? But if you approach it, in this, I would say, superficial level, just to see the effect and don't even go into the reasoning, really, what is behind those, what is going on that caused this whole mess. Our efforts are fruitless.
Considering there is more than enough food in the world, most of it rots or is destroyed deliberately to keep the prices at certain levels. And it's just politics. It's not that there is not enough food. It's just that people in the power, they control that. A lot of food in America gets destroyed, and now they're converting a lot of these farmlands, which used to grow all these different wheat and all these other food items.
Yeah.
Now they're converting it to biofuel. They don't even need biofuel because they have started doing fracking. So their energy needs are taken care of. Even without biofuel, they can manage their energy needs. But still, because of economic reasons, so
it's the same as you mentioned about the religion, right? If you look at it, close enough, you're gonna realize there's something going on. There's nothing that would consider God,
Yeah. But what we have to look at is that just the way we are attracting those things in our lives,
Exactly. So there's
those
something
people
else.
and those societies are also attracting those things in their lives. We can't feel sorry for them. If we do want to help them, we have to get to a better place where we have something better to give. If we don't get to that place, what good is our £5 donation going to do?
True. Absolutely.
And if that's the best we can, we at least be peaceful about it, that okay, we've given this £5, so we've done our bit. And what more can we do? We might volunteer, we feel happy that that's the limit of what we can do. And we have done our bit, so let's be happy with it. Let's be at peace with it. So today's session was about religion and the rules. So what we have talked about is that every person has different set of rules which works for them. What works for you is what you have to find out. It's within you. And the way to find out is to go through each set of rules that you've been enforced to you by your religion, your society, by your circumstances.
Just question.
Question them.
That's all.
Talk to yourself.
Just question. This the Byron Katie way of approaching your stressful thoughts and emotions. But you basically question it. You ask it if this is true. You know, let's say you believe in something, you have fear of something. You wish to experience something, but there is something on your way and you're fearful. Question it.
Yeah.
See if it is true. Approach it from a different area. Just ask yourself why other people can do it. You know, what they have, I don't. If you don't question, you're gonna be blind.
Yeah.
That's how most people
So when
are.
you question, talk to yourself, have conversation with yourself for each of those things, and see how you feel.
Yeah.
And follow your heart, follow your emotions. If you feel, get to a good feeling place or a better feeling place compared to where you were before, then you are heading in the right direction. That means you are going in the right direction because it's your soul, that inner being, your Kundalini, along with your consciousness. Your soul is telling you that this is the right thing for you, which may be different from what is being followed by other people. But be at peace with it. Let those people be who they are and you be who you are. Because every person has different circumstances, different situations. So you can't assume that the same set of rules would work for every single person. And those thoughts, those desires, and manifestation of those desires expands God, expands this universe. So how can that be wrong? The only caveat is that obviously there are certain rules of the society which cannot be broken. Like you cannot go out and become a criminal, start killing people and all. But you would notice that if you start listening to your heart, you would never do any of those things anyways. Because they will give you pain. And if you know that it's giving you pain, you know that's the wrong things to do. But if something, let's say, some simple things which are just not criminal but just against your religion or society, if it feels good for you, that's the right thing for you. That's the right thing for you to do. It may not be good for others. Others may criticize it because for them it's a different set of rules, or maybe they are not connected to their source, their God. Fine, but who cares? I have grown up with that belief that I don't care what people say. I just do whatever I do. And then it has done wonders for me when it did. And the moment I started trying to please people around me and trying to listen to everyone, trying to find those political common ground in office, corporate environment, that's when some things went wrong in my life. And not only in that office environment, but even outside as well. So because if you are heading in the right direction, if you are feeling good within yourself, you carry a vibration around you that also affects others around you. And that also carries a vibration which allows the universe to start manifesting those things that you want to you. And then it also allows you to think better, take better decisions, have better thoughts. And in order to achieve that, you have to let others be who you are. Be at peace with yourself, be at peace within your circumstances, and be at peace with others, people around you. And being able to allow them to have their own set of rules and religions, and you follow your own rules and religions which your own inner being tells you, is important. That's the first step. Have conversations with yourself. Go make a list of those rules. Have conversations to yourself about each of those rules. See what feels good to you. Say that, okay, I'm going to follow that because that's what feels good to me. That's what my soul, which has gone through millions of lifetimes, has gained so much, experience, that my soul, after all these millions of years, is going to tell me that this is the right thing for me to do. And am I going to listen to my neighbor because he's going to criticize me? Who cares? I'm going to just think that neighbor away. I'm going to think that neighbor away because I will start ignoring that neighbor. And once I start ignoring that person would get out of my universe, because in my universe only those things stay which I want. So all those people who criticize me just walk out of my life. And I want those people who believe in exactly the same things I want, same things I believe in. And those people start coming.
How realistic is that?
What's that?
How realistic is that? To have what you want, to have the people you wish for.
If I tell you my own experience, like for instance,
what tool you're using to achieve that?
Same thing that I
Because there is always some way to get something, right?
No, this is what this session is about. Each week we talk about the one part of this process. So first I achieved a state of bliss within my own self, that I thought that I'm like really handsome, I'm good looking, I'm intelligent, I'm smart. I'm pleased with myself.
Like my brother, yeah. Okay.
I'm pleased with myself, I'm happy where I am, right? Then I basically became at peace with my circumstances, whatever my income level, whatever situation, everything is good. I am supposed to be where I am and I'm happy with it, I'm at peace with it. Then I started being at peace with all the people who had done anything wrong to me, all the rules that are different, people, every single thing that had happened to me, people who had come into my life, who earlier I had hatred for or negative emotions about. I became at peace with them. Nowadays I thank, they are in my gratitude list now, those people. Then there are other set of rules, other set of parts of this process which we are going to talk about as we go along. And once you reach that state of bliss, then there are other steps that you could follow, and then those things start happening. And just imagine, when I started doing this, when I became at peace with myself, people's behavior towards me changed. I didn't go and tell them to start behaving with me differently. They automatically, same people, started behaving with me differently. A lot of things that I used to tell my kids to do, they never did it. I just changed myself. I stopped telling them anything and everything. I stopped just telling them anything. And my behavior changed. And they started, their behavior changed. Automatically, they just started doing those things which I've been forcing them to do, but they never did. My relation with my wife just skyrocketed like anything, because I didn't have to say anything to her. I just focused on myself. I started being happy with myself, and those people around me automatically started behaving with me differently. Even though earlier I used to try to please her and could not, but now I try to please myself and she's happy with me. So,
or relationships can end, because when you become who you are, the person that you're with,
yeah, if it's a
not
completely
happy with
wrong
who you
person,
are.
Because then you see
then you,
Exactly.
it shouldn't work, because there's no way, yeah.
so if it's completely different,
Yeah.
that person wants completely something different, you may end that relation and be happy about it, and it might
Both
both
ways, yeah.
both ways. Because what happens is that it's up to you. Let's say even that choice of whether that you want that relation to end or not is your intent. So you think, if you make yourself in a good feeling place about that person you are with, if you can get to that stage, that person, that relation would get stronger and that person would change his behavior towards you. You don't have to say anything to that person.
I used to do that, this is the thing some people call playing with the self, but it's not who you really are. When you come to the point that you realize that, and you make sure that, the self we're talking about, it's not who you are. When you say, my name is this and this, it's not who you are.
Okay.
As you said before, there is the thing that, whatever we can call it, let's say the soul, right? This is who you really are. And who you become, as a human being on this planet, right? It's something that is an expression, temporary expression of this permanent state, which is whatever you call it, let's say soul. So when you come from this approach, whatever happens doesn't matter really.
What it is, I'll explain what it is.
When you step back and see whoever I'm become as let's say Johnny or whatever, it doesn't really matter. When you see the problems from this state, it's not who I really am. Who I am is endless. It's
Exactly.
powerful.
Who I am has been around for millions of years and would continue to be for millions of years, right? But this, let's say whatever 80 years that I am in this name, this body,
Yeah.
it's just a tiny fraction, it's just a speck in the overall time space continuum where I've existed. So I'm not this name, this body that I am.
Place I go to.
I've been there before. And all that knowledge, all that experience I've gained
when I see stuff.
is telling me what is right for me and what's not. So you just follow that guidance.
What I should do then, next time I come over.
So, first step in being at peace with others,
I go to this place a lot.
let them follow their own rules, their own religions, their own practices. You find what is right for you. You follow those practices, let those people be. Don't worry about them ruining your experience, because once you start following your own practices, those people, either would just walk out of your experience, they won't even show up in your life, or they will change their own behavior towards you on their own. You don't have to talk to them, you don't have to try to convince them. It'll just happen.
Correct. Just like your dog. No, it's not.
Because, you know, I cannot do what you are doing. Whoever is here, right? We cannot exchange our destiny,
Well,
let's
they're
say.
not man. It's not.
But-
they're just they're.
At least for in my case, I come to realize that there is
I had these on the
there
road.
is
instead of
there is a
basil.
play that is going on around us, right? And we can choose the role we can choose to play. But it's much
Now,
easier to
okay,
choose
right, I'll
when you really know
explain.
who you are. If you know who you are, you know all those little
Is
limitations,
there anything
those silly
factual you
problems,
can get out of that?
because that's how people see them.
You get like.
They're not so important. And then, you know, I'm a husband as well. So I don't want to divorce my wife. I don't want to lose my family. I'm still going to be who they know me as, you know, as a father or husband, whatever. But I'm going to see everything that is going on in this family.
All the information's there.
You know, and I'm still looking for help to find, you know, how I
Yeah,
can do
you
that.
can, but that's.
Because
that's fine.
now and again, you just get lost in this rat race.
No, that's
this
been-
everything. Sometimes it's too much.
Yeah, but
So
again,
maybe this
see your interpretation.
law of attraction and Kundalini thing, maybe this is something that might
Yeah,
come.
it would work. And we also have this sex and relations workshop, where I would be talking about the same sort of principles that have turned my life around. So it would be a combination of some ancient Hindu techniques which are similar to Tantra, which is known as Tantra. It's not really Tantra, but in Western world they call it Tantra. And also about combination of Kundalini and law of attraction. So basically a mixture of all these ancient and modern techniques, along with my own personal experiences, which have turned my life around. And that's a workshop. That can help as well. in that way. So we're out of time. So, but what we, like I said in summary, you find your own bliss, your own set of rules that you want to live by. Let others live with their own rules. There will not be conflict because you can wish those people away. They won't bother you anymore if you don't want them. So you will find those people who think what you are doing is the right thing if you follow it correctly. That's the way it goes. So
Can I
try
say
that.
about the gratitude list, and because that's my conflict this week, about seeing people that you see that have done you wrong or have caused you pain or whatnot, and you say, I put them on my gratitude list, so I'm going to go away this week and list
And this
them
is
on the gratitude
these
list.
are some of the things we would
That's what I'm
cover.
going to do.
So
Yeah.
So today we covered religion. Next week we are going to cover the marital relations, like marital and unmarital relations, right? Because that's another big source of conflict, which even breaks a lot of families. Week after that we'll cover the other things people have done wrong to you, people you feel hatred towards, jealousy, those kind of things. And then, so these are the 3 sessions, the next 2 sessions, where you'll be trying to become at peace with others. And then basically, hopefully you'll be at a state of bliss. Then we'll talk about the actual processes. How do you set the intent? What sort of mantras you can use? What sort of meditation you can use? To start then use this blissful state along with Kundalini and law of attraction to start seeing magic. How do you see the evidence that whatever you have asked for, whether it's working or not, whether you're heading in the right direction or not? How do you even know whether it's the thing for you which is working or not? So you will start seeing evidence. So those kind of things we'll talk about in future sessions.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you for coming.
It's not in heaven.
Yes, yes.